right there and do nothing because we weren't old enough to do anything.
Over there. This is the island. It's not really an island. That's what we call it. Fire pit. No one really liked that when we put that in. A lot of my childhood was spent down here. In the water. And around the water. So this week's topic is budgeting.
So last month we talked about self-care and mental health, and those things are really important in life and in your 20s and adulthood in general. But there are a lot of other things that we don't talk about a lot that are really hard, or they seem really hard but they shouldn't be, like budgeting.
Keep switching sides because it's a little dark.
So budgeting is one of those things that we all have to do, especially once you start working and you're out of college and you have bills to pay. But in a lot of cases, nobody really teaches us how to do that, or they give us one way to do budgeting, or like it feels like there's a specific pattern of what you're supposed to do. It doesn't always work for everybody. For example, when I was in high school, I got my first debit card with my first checking account, and ever since then my mom's been on me about balancing my checkbook. She had an Excel spreadsheet, and she would do all these different things to balance the checkbook, and it was really simple in the end, but it it didn't work for me. Up until this past year, I never budgeted my own checkbook or balanced my own checkbook, because I would always be looking on like my app for my credit card and making sure that I'm not going under zero, and I'd budget in my own way that way, and I did a lot of handwriting. So my mom she works in finance, sort of. She does it a lot with insurance, so she's on Excel all day, every day, and that really worked for her to keep herself in check and keep myself and my sister in check when it comes to money. But it never worked for me. She would always be worried that I wasn't checking my bank account, I wasn't balancing my checkbook or keeping a budget in mind, because I wasn't doing like A, B, and C of what she did. And then in this last year, I decided to start my own Excel spreadsheet, but not in the same way that she did it. So how she would do it is go into my bank account, export all of the transactions that I did during that pay period, or between bills. She would export that, put it into the Excel spreadsheet, do some formula, and it would put it in another sheet, and it was just lots of different places that you had to go. So for my own personal budget, I took sort of what my mom did and what she taught me, and I put everything in a Google Sheet so that I can access it on my laptop, on my work computer, my phone. When I make a purchase, I go into my Google Sheets and I put in what the purchase was, how much it cost, where it was purchased, and in the notes section of my sheet I say what I bought, or if I went out to eat, and if I paid for Stefan, then I write that down. And I do that for every single purchase I make, whether it's on my debit card. I have a tab for each of my credit cards, I have a tab for my savings, and then I also have a tab for cash, which I never carry cash, and we'll get to that. You carry cash though. I have like the total of my purchases, they all add up at the bottom, but then I also take the starting balance from when I started my own budgeting practice. So in here I have my starting balance was just over $1,600, and it was right after I had gotten paid, and then every transaction after that is like subtracted from that number. Or if I, on a payday, or if somebody sends me money through Venmo and I put it in my bank account, I add that to the total and it eventually balances out. I have another column where it subtracts the number of like my starting balance and like the next purchase and puts it in another column, so that each purchase I can see what my bank account was showing. And at the end of the day, the two different columns that are next to each other should match the same number. And if they don't match the same number, that means I made a mistake in entering something. Because at the end of the day, what's in your bank account is what's in your bank account. And if you do the math wrong, that's on you. And then I also color code every purchase I make. So if it's a paycheck, then it's bright green. If it's somebody that Venmo'd me money, it's a yellow color. I color code for going out and eating out. And then I just have like other purchases. And that way I can see what I spend most of my money on versus if I'm spending it on what I need versus what I want. And unfortunately, most of my money goes towards eating food and not living expenses. But that's okay, because budgeting it's not also supposed to be like, okay, well, you have X amount of money and you can only spend it on the things that you need, because you also need to spend your money and your time on the things that you want. And being able to create a budget and follow it and monitor what you're doing will help you in the end be able to save money and use it the way that you want to use it. Like I said before, I also have a tab in my Google Sheets that I track for the cash that I carry around. But a lot of the time I don't carry cash for two reasons. One, I just never go to the bank thanks to mobile depositing and direct deposit. I never have to go to the bank. But I also don't carry cash because when I have cash, I spend it like it's money that I already spent. So if the amount of cash that's in my wallet, it's not reflecting in my bank account. So I'm seeing my bank account and I'm like, oh, I only have $100, but I have $40 in my wallet. So that's not really money to me. Like in my head, I'm just like, ooh, I already spent it. But then there's people like Stefan who only carry cash.
Only carry cash.
Well, you don't only carry cash, but you always carry cash.
I like to carry cash because it's easier to use.
Yeah.
It's easier to use going out and
definitely easier.
Buying drinks, stuff like that.
Yeah. But I don't use cash most of the time because like I said, I will spend it.
I always have cash. Willingly.
Like I don't even bat an eye. But when I'm using my debit card, I am thinking about the number that's in my bank account when I'm spending that money. Because I'm like, okay, well, once I swipe this card, that money is gone. And I can't get it back until... So I originally started my budget. I carried a journal with me all the time. Sometimes it would end up on like a post-it note or something, but I would go through all of my purchases and write them down like by hand instead of just typing it into a computer or looking at my bank account and tracking it just like visually. But when you actually write it down or you actually type it into the computer or whatever, it's kind of like studying and you're taking notes. Like when you write stuff down, it sticks in your head more. So the more I wrote it down and the more I type it out, the more aware I am of what I'm spending. And that doesn't mean I stop spending as much money, but I'm, focusing on like, okay, well, do I really need to buy lunch 5 days a week? Or can I go to the grocery store and spend the same amount of money, but have more food that lasts me longer next week?
I don't budget. There you go.
He doesn't budget, but over this next month,
we'll see.
We're gonna make you budget. Yeah. Keep up with us over the next couple weeks while we talk about traveling on a budget and, not breaking the bank, but still having a lot of fun. We're going to talk about loans and reconsolidating loans, if you have them. Some of us are lucky enough to not have them. That's not me. And we might even talk about, credit cards and which credit cards are the best deals to have and how to keep your expenses low when using a credit card. If you have any money or budgeting questions or topics that you want us to cover, comment below or send us a DM at 20NYC, and we will do our best to answer those questions. I hope that I was able to help you with budgeting today. And we also have a free download of a weekly budget tracker. We will put the link to that below as well.
Big love, short stack.
Bye. Another reason that I don't carry cash is because so many stupid places in New York don't even take cash. They only take credit cards. So it's impossible to go to my favorite coffee shop if I only carry cash, because they only take cards.